Hey guys, we're back again today, and I just want to kind of try and answer a question that I get asked pretty frequently, and that is, what size nose ring do I need? How do I know my nose ring size? All right, now that's kind of a tricky question because everybody is different, okay? So a lot of people, they might be one size and other people might be the other size. So let's just talk what is like standard or pretty average nostril piercing sizes. I would say standard, you're gonna be looking at two thicknesses, all right? So two thicknesses being either 18 gauge or 20 gauge. When it comes to like studs or nose screws or little mini like push pin barbells or anything like that, they're probably always gonna be 18 gauge. I prefer 18 gauge on those. You can occasionally find nostril screws in a 20 gauge. Which is going to be the thinner size, obviously. But 18 gauge is your pretty standard sizing on that, okay? Now, if we're going to rings, when it comes to rings, it's going to be the same thing, 18 gauge or 20 gauge. But at my shop, most commonly, we put in 20 gauge rings. 18 gauge just tends to look a little bit more bulky. Some girls or guys actually like the 18 gauge look, but just know your 18 gauge can be a little bit more thicker. You're going to see a lot more metal on that one, okay? So for rings, I would say 20 gauge. Now, for rings, you got diameter also, okay? For studs, you don't have to worry about diameter. You do have to worry about length. We'll talk about that in a second. But for the rings, you're looking at, usually on average, a 5/16 is pretty standard. But I know a lot of people want that snug fitted look. For something like that, man, it's a gamble, okay? Unless you have someone actually, you go into a shop and have a piercer actually fit you for it, it's kind of a gamble. 5/16 is pretty average. I would say that's the most common size that I put in a person's nose for like that fitted look. But there's also 9/32, 11/32, which is just barely bigger or smaller, which could make it a little bit more snug and you might be happier with that look. So that's a tough one. 20 gauge 5/16 for rings, the most common size I put in a nose. And yeah, so if you're buying a ring offline or something, 20 gauge 5/16 is kind of a safe bet. But once again, I don't know for sure because I have to see your piercing exactly, okay, to give you an exact answer on the size. To backtrack to the studs really quick, studs being nostril screws or little mini barbells. For the nostril screws, they're kind of usually come in one size. If you're buying it something like online or something, I usually recommend going to a shop and buying your nostril screws in a shop off a professional piercer because they're gonna take that nostril screw and bend it and make it fitted to your nose. Now, if you're looking at like the little push pin posts, those guys are gonna be the 18 gauge. Those come in several lengths. 5/16 is a pretty standard length. It's usually the length that I pierce with. If you got pierced with one and it's feeling really loose, as long as your piercing is well and healed, you can always go a little bit shorter, which would be a 1/4 inch. So if you're trying to buy one on your own, 1/4 inch is a good size to buy if you want it shorter and more snug than the one you got pierced with, okay? But if you're not sure what size you have or what size you even need, if you're trying to switch to one of those, 5/16 is pretty safe. It's probably gonna fit you, usually no matter what. Yeah, just know though with sizing, you're always taking a gamble unless you go into a shop and have them look at your piercing and tell you the exact size that you need, okay? So hopefully you guys got something from that. Hopefully that kind of makes a little bit of sense. Just know with rings, you're usually looking at 20 gauge 5/16. With nostril screws, they're usually gonna be 18 gauge or 20 gauge thickness. With little push pin posts, 18 gauge 5/16 is your standard size, okay? And once again, just to really put it out there, this is all just standard sizing, okay? If you want an exact fit, go see a piercer, okay? So you guys, as always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.